Okay, good morning. I'm still waiting. I think there's a few people that are getting ready to jump in here. I do want to talk about a couple of things that are coming up. So just reminders of what's coming up the rest of the week. So, hold on, I'll look at my calendar. Um, Once we finish section 3, IDs and SQs, then you'll be done and ready to submit that. And then you've still got a couple more days to finish your packet. Packets are due Friday. So after we finish section 3 in the packet, then you've got a couple of pages to do practice work on, the content vocabulary and the crossword. And we're actually going to look at the story together on the back that's about Hawaii. I think I realized the problem. I think it's because I'm trying to scan a copy of a copy is why my stories for some reason are not very clear when you guys get them on Google Classroom. So we're going to talk about, I'll summarize and we'll talk about the questions so that you can go ahead and get that part done. Tomorrow is your unit quiz. So tomorrow we will, we'll still do Zooms, but your Zoom will be to review for your quiz. Even though I might also talk about what's coming up with the next unit, I might do that as well. And depending on whether or not I have time today, I'll start either today or tomorrow putting your chapter 15 stuff, because 14's imperialism and 15's progressives, but I kind of put those two together and we'll do another combo unit, kind of like we did with Wild West and Cities. So that is all stuff that's coming up this week and next. I think that's the big stuff. And I was trying not to get going too much to make sure I didn't miss anybody that wanted to come into this one. I had several people that were in the 10:30. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. And if somebody does jump in with us, then I'll just get them caught back up. And if I go too fast or you miss one, let me know. Slow me down, and we'll go back over it, okay? Did you have any questions about anything before we get started, about anything that's coming up or whatever?
No, I was tried to join the Zoom at 10, but it didn't ever go through, I guess.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Was it 10 or 10:30?
10. I don't know why I said 10:30. It's 10 and 11:30. The only reason why I did an 11, no, the only reason why I did a 10:30 the other day is because my first block Zoom ran long and I didn't realize it till it was too late. But even I did have a few people that got confused by that and jumped on like right at 10:30 today, and it popped up automatically. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of surprised that if you tried to get on, that it didn't automatically put you on. I don't know.
Yeah.
But sorry about that mix-up.
All right.
I don't know. It's my Zoom has been crashing on me for some reason, and I can't quite figure out why. I don't know if it's internet connection issues or if it's the actual Zoom launch app. I don't know. I'm doing something wrong and it's crashing. Hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully it won't crash on us when we're in the middle of our meeting today, but you never know. So okay, all right, so again, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bust out and finish section 3 on the IDs and SQs, and then we'll bust out and finish section 3 in the packets. And then, like I said, we'll go and talk about the story that's on the back, and I'm assuming it's because I'm trying to scan a copy of a copy, because this is not my original copy, this is an older copy. I guess that's why it's not scanning in real well on my stories. So we'll summarize the story and answer those questions so that all you guys have left to do are those couple of review pages in the middle, which I'm hoping that's what you'll use it for. You'll use it as a review in preparation for your unit quiz tomorrow. But if I go too fast and you miss something, slow me down and we'll go back over it. Okay. All right, so let's knock this out and make sure that you guys are good. And I will do a review Zoom tomorrow. I'm throwing this out there to make sure that everybody knows you always have the option to do an either online Zoom review or an in-person review, however you guys want to do it. But just so everybody knows that I do offer both on quiz and test days. All right, section 3, let's do it. Section 3:21 says, what was the purpose of the open door policy? And I'm just going to simplify for you. Start trade with China. That's probably as short as I can make it. To open up the doors to trade with China. All these answers are actually going to be found on that page in your notes that says world power. And I don't know if you guys know or not, but in every single chapter section in Google Classroom under the classwork tab, in every unit, your PowerPoints are in there as the material. So I hope that you guys know that they're there and that you can see them. And hopefully you click through it and you see that information. And whether or not you watch my videos with the extra info, I'm not going to ask because it might hurt my feelings if you say no. So I'm not going to ask. But hopefully you're at least looking at those PowerPoints and going through that information. Okay. All right, 22 says, why did President Theodore Roosevelt want to increase U.S. influence overseas? The best way to summarize that is just to say, to continue pushing the U.S. to be a world power. It's the best I can do. Continue pushing the U.S. to be a world power. Because what it comes down to is, we're trying to build up our economy. We're trying to build up our Navy. And we are trying to, and it's pretty impressive, really. We're trying to compete with these countries that have been countries for hundreds of thousands of years. So I think it's really impressive that we, as kind of a baby country, really, we didn't get our independence until 1776. So we're still very much a baby country and we're trying to run before we can walk. So I think it's pretty impressive that we're trying to run with the big dogs, a little over 100 years later. 23 says, why did the U.S. decide to build a canal in Panama? Let's see. I guess I should have looked. I'm having to borrow Fortune's room today. I guess I should have looked to see if he had a map close by, so I can show you. All right, let's take a walk, if you will. Okay, so the whole idea is we need a way to be able to get from East Coast to West Coast as quickly as possible in our naval, what are they called? Battleships and tankers and carriers and cruise ships. But we need a way that we don't have to go all the way around South America. So here I'm going to try and show you the map. Okay, so we wouldn't have to go all the way around South America to do it. We found Panama, if you can see it. Panama is right there. That is the thinnest piece of land that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. And that would be the easiest place to dig through and create a canal. But there is a little bit of a problem because when we try and do all this, Panama is actually a colony of Colombia, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So to answer your question of why did the U.S. decide to build a canal, we needed a shortcut. Simple as that. Needed a shortcut. Needed a shortcut. Needed a way to get from East Coast to West Coast as fast as possible. Okay. 24. How did Roosevelt assist Panama in becoming independent? Well, we didn't want it to be seen as physically intervening and sending our military, so we're going to give them money and supplies. That's your answer, money and supplies. So we give Panama money and supplies to fight for their independence, and of course, our prize for doing that and helping them is to be able to build the Panama Canal. All right, 25. Why did President Wilson intervene in Mexico? And it's all because of the Robin Hood of the West, as they called him, Pancho Villa. We were trying to track down this Mexican rebel. All right, just write that down. Tracking down a rebel. How about that? So we were trying to track this guy down who had been bouncing back and forth across, borders between us and Mexico, messing up American property and everything. So we were kind of chasing him around, even though Mexico never would give him up and turn him over to us. And there's two parts to that question. The second part says, how did Latin Americans view Wilson's moral diplomacy? They saw us as being two-faced. That can be your answer, but I want to explain. They saw the U.S. as being two-faced, and here's what I mean by that. They thought that we kind of said one thing but did another. That, how can a country be all moral if we don't even treat our own people right? Because of segregation, because of how we treat African Americans and Native Americans. How can we be telling other countries what to do when we don't even treat our own people right? That's kind of their reasoning. So they thought that we were very two-faced about it, that how can we tell them to be moral about how they run their country when we're not even treating our own people right, immigrants, etc. Okay, all right, your IDs, and again, all of these IDs are coming from that page in your notes called World Power, and I forget the actual number of the PowerPoint, but that's where it's coming from. All right, sphere of influence. Let me try and make this as simplified as possible. Area where a foreign nation controls another. Area where a foreign nation controls another. I don't know that I can really simplify that much further. 27, Boxer Rebellion, Chinese Rebellion. That's all you have to put. Chinese Rebellion. The Chinese are experiencing their own civil war as they try and develop and also push to become a world power as well. 28, the Roosevelt Corollary. Again, if you're referencing that page of notes that's called World Power, you can go down to where it talks about foreign policy. The Roosevelt Corollary is kind of a step above the Monroe Doctrine. Monroe Doctrine of 1820 says that other countries can't interfere in this neighborhood, this hemisphere, right, North and South America. The Roosevelt Corollary says that we will use military force. So write that down. Use military force if needed to protect our neighborhood, okay? And then dollar diplomacy. So Theodore Roosevelt comes up with the Roosevelt Corollary. Taft, William Taft is after him. Taft says dollar diplomacy, which means we will use financial assistance. Write that down. Use financial means, use money to help our neighbors if needed. Use money to help. And then 30, Pancho Villa, like I said, he is a Mexican rebel. The Robin Hood of the West is what they call him, because he is literally stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, not always doing it the right way, obviously. Anytime you steal, that's obviously not going to be the right way. But anyway, okay. All right, anything on your IDs and SQs that you want me to go back over before we move on? Okay, all right, let's knock out. Go ahead.
I think I have one. Let me get back up. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
It's number 22, actually.
Okay, why did President Theodore Roosevelt want to increase U.S. influence overseas? To continue pushing the U.S. to be a world power. To show our strength to other countries. How about that? Show our strength to other countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Was there any others that were on the IDs?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Let's head to your packet. So your packet for section 3 is it's just fill in the blank. So if you have the packet printed, again, just write it in the blank. If not, you can just number 1 through 12 and write just what goes in that blank. Don't feel like you have to write up the whole entire question. Okay, all right, let's do this. All right, section 1 says the nation's primary interest in Asia was not conquest, but commerce. And commerce is just a fancy way of saying business. Number 1 says the vast Chinese markets excited American business leaders, especially those in the textile, oil, and steel industries. That's your answer. That's what goes in the blank. Industries. All right, number 2 says in the 1894 war between China and Japan over lands, technically it's Korea, but the whole issue is over land. Again, remember that Japan is an island nation. They are restricted on their natural resources. So technically it's over land, but they're actually fighting over land that is Korea. That's number 2. All right, number 3 says, who is it that forced Japan to give its newly acquired territory back to China? And it's actually Russia. So again, if I had a map, you could visualize it a lot better. But Russia, who again is another world power and is watching very closely what happens because everybody sees China as opportunity for business and resources. So Russia is watching very closely what happens, and they're going to make sure that Japan is playing by the rules on everything. So Russia steps in. So number 3 is Russia. Number 4, the U.S. proposed an blank policy, open door. Open door for number 4, open door, which would allow all countries to trade with China. Section 2 says Theodore Roosevelt believed in a strong global military presence. Number 5, Roosevelt and others allowed the construction of a canal through Latin America. Latin America. Now we know, or no, what am I saying? Central America. Sorry. Number 5, Central America. My bad. So of course 6 wants to know what specific country. Number 6 says in 1903, the U.S. recognized the independence of Panama, which is where we're going to build the canal. So number 6 is Panama. Number 7, the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine said that the U.S. would intervene in Latin America. Latin America. And I think that's where I got myself mixed up. Latin America for number 7. Let's see. Number 8, the U.S. first applied the Roosevelt corollary. Hold on. I'll get my lights to come back on in a second. Number 8 is Dominican Republic. There we go. Dominican Republic. And if I had a map, I could show you Dominican Republic is right there where Puerto Rico and Cuba are out in the Caribbean. So Dominican Republic for number 8. Section 3 says Wilson believed in moral diplomacy and tried to encourage democracy in Latin America. Number 9, shortly after Woodrow Wilson took office as president in 1913, Hirohito seized power in Mexico. Mexico for number 9. Number 10, in April of 1914, American soldiers were sent in Mexico. Sent. Wilson saw Mexico's refusal to apologize as an opportunity to overthrow Hirohito. Number 11, in 1916, Wilson sent General John J. Pershing to capture Pancho Villa. Pancho Villa. We didn't ever find him, never got him. We'll actually talk about General Pershing later once we get into World War I stuff. And number 12, in 1914, Woodrow Wilson negotiated exclusive rights for naval bases and a canal in Nicaragua. So fun fact, but you didn't know that. Naval base in Nicaragua. All right, before we talk about the story on the back of the packet, are there any of the 1 through 12? Did anybody miss one of those? Okay, all right, so the back has the story about Hawaii, and it's got a couple of questions to go along with it. So we'll talk about it, and then all you'll have to do in the packet is do those couple of review sheets, and you can turn that in. All right, so Hawaii, it goes through and talks about the terrible, horrible, awful story of what happened with the planters that were over in Hawaii. We were renting land. We had plantations. We had sugarcane plantations, pineapple plantations. Our farmers said that the Hawaiians were causing trouble and messing with our property. We sent in the military. The military overthrew Queen Hulukalani and her people. That happens in 1893. And then after that, we just said we were going to annex Hawaii. Annex means to take in. That we were going to annex Hawaii and take them in as a territory before they later become a state, which happens in 1959. Okay, so today, unfortunately, Hawaii is becoming heavily populated. There's a lot of tourism. Of course, a lot of the beauty and scenery is kind of being taken over because we're building parking lots and hotels and things like that. Cost is high for living. There's a lot of pollution. All right, let's answer the questions. Number 1 says, how did outsiders transform the Hawaiian Islands? Again, taking away scenery and building businesses and tourist hotels, restaurants, things like that. So unfortunately, we're getting rid of the beautiful scenery and we're modernizing it with buildings. Number 2 says, why do you think pure Hawaiians today feel a sense of loss? So it's really sad. We talked about this happening with Native Americans as well. Let's see, it says pure Hawaiians and many part Hawaiians share a sense of loss. With the support of the ethnic groups, the state did agree to promote a study of Native Hawaiian traditions, language, and history. It says, although Hawaiian residents now speak English, their traditional language remains alive in place names, and it's kind of sprinkled in, like aloha is actually something that we here in the continental US know, right, as a Hawaiian word. But to answer your question, they just feel like their culture and traditions are fading away. So it's really sad. Culture and traditions are fading away. And number 3, how are the visitors to the island affecting Hawaii today? Overcrowding, overpopulation, pollution, destroying natural habitats for animals, just all the things, right? Okay, so that gets everything done in your packet besides those 2 review activities, the content review and the timeline page. Any questions about anything? IDs and SQs due tomorrow, review and quiz. Oh, no. IDs and SQs due today, review and quiz tomorrow, and packet due Friday.
I have a question.
Okay.
On number 1 of the transformation of Hawaii,
Mhm.
what did you say about that? Because my paper didn't print right.
Okay. Yeah, so number 1, building, businesses, hotels, changing the scenery, overcrowding the cities. Question 1 and 3 are kind of similar on their answer, but modernizing it, I guess, is a way to simplify it. Modernizing it, building buildings, restaurants, hotels, tourist attractions.
Also wanted to say thank you for going over this page because like Blake said, the questions really didn't come out. Like I can't see the questions at all on paper.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was because I tried to make a copy of what was already a copy instead of, I can't find my original on this one. So I'll make sure next time, any other time that I have stories, I'll see if I can make sure I have the original, because I think that's the biggest part of the problem is why it didn't come out clear at all. So sorry about that.
It's okay, which is understandable about your situation, not doing the original copy.
Yeah. Did you guys have any other questions about anything?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. If you think of anything, shoot me an email or something. Other than that, happy Wednesday. All right. Y'all have a good one.